Hello world, it's Craig. This video is a great place to end this series on the Digi-Key Nibbler SCaMP system, the SCaMP. This is the instruction jamming board that I described in the last video, which was number 147. With this board, we can add a number of new 1-byte instructions that do not need to use any pointers to be pre-configured and that do not destroy any registers. So we can do things like pushing and popping registers to a stack, or we can create call and return instructions where a stack is used to store the program counter. It can also be used to insert breakpoints and, as we'll see in a bit, to provide for single stepping through a program. In my last video, I went over the circuit design and such, but I hadn't built the board. And if you haven't watched that video, it lays the groundwork that may be useful before watching this video. And if you're interested in another approach, over on the UK Vintage Forum, Retrophil posted the most interesting article from the February 79 Practical Electronics. The column's titled, Adding to the SCaMP Instruction Set. Using a Science of Cambridge MK14, they added a little circuit to create a vectored interrupt in response to fetching some of the unused SCaMP opcodes. Their solution ties up the P3 pointer, but it does it in a manner that allows the P3 to be reloaded at any time with a known value. And I'll put a link to that post in the description so you can get the article for yourself. It's a very interesting read, and I'll certainly try it if I ever get one of the MK14 work-alike boards. So back to my project. Once the boards arrived, things came together and I was able to get one up and running very easily. As usual, some aspects of the design worked out because I was very careful in planning it, and other things just bounced in my favor simply from clean living. There's always room for improvement, but it does do exactly what I wanted it to do. Namely, it identifies our new vectored instruction opcodes, and then it uses an effective program counter to jam instructions onto the bus, essentially taking over control of the program execution. So let me put this board back into the system so I can show it in action. Let's look at the simplest use of this board. Let's say that this is some code under development. It's running in Nibbler RAM, and I'll insert one of our new opcodes to exit this code that's under test and go back into the KitBug++ diagnostic monitor. And then once there, I can do things like check and modify register values. So I'm going to use the new vectored instruction opcode 0C. And when the CPU fetches that opcode, this board is going to change the effective program counter of the CPU to the address which resides in a 6264 RAM on that vectored interrupt instruction board. Now up at that location in RAM, what I call the landing zone, I've already placed a bit of code that saves all the registers and then enters the KitBug++ resident monitor. And likewise, I have another piece of code in the landing zone of another of our new opcodes that will exit KitBug++ and return back to my test code that's under development at the line that got us out of it. So I run my normal program, which has our new opcode, and as soon as it hits that 0C opcode, the CPU is back into KitBug's debug mode, where, as I said, we can examine registers, modify memory, and so forth. Now, just in case you aren't suitably impressed by this, you need to understand that without some sort of hardware like this board, there's no way for the SCaMP to do this without the use of one of its pointers and using the xppc command. And usually using that pointer means it's going to be destroyed. Now sure, this simple push of the program counter and call is something even the 4004 could do, but it's something that the SCaMP cannot do on its own without this supporting hardware. Now I've changed the code that I have up in that 6264 in the landing zones, and so this allows us to have a single stepping functionality in KitBug++. So this is a hardware-dependent single-step function. Eventually, I may add this to a sandbox-based single-step function in KitBug++, but this is something that I've wanted to do since I first started playing with this processor. And this is all just an example of how the board can be used to enhance a Nibbler-based SCaMP system. Here is the KitBug++ step command using this hardware, and we're stepping through a little bit of hello world sort of test code. If step is used with a 4-digit starting address, it will begin at that address and then step through one instruction at a time and then break back into kitbug++. And from there, you can enter the space or carriage return to step through the next instruction, or use any of the other kitbug tools to change registers and so forth. Now in the background, of course, to do this, the step command is simply replacing the next instruction to be executed with a specific vectored instruction opcode, one of those ones that we made up, which then saves the program counter and all of the other registers and then returns control to the kitbug++ debug. Now, rather than using a 4-digit starting address, STEP will accept a 1 or 2-digit value, and it'll use that as the number of instructions to step through. With each instruction, it gives the address, the decoded opcode, the status bits, and finally the register contents. And the flags are given in their order. In the status byte, uppercase means it's set and lowercase means that it's a 0. In all cases, this is showing us the next instruction to be executed. So if needed, we can use the register modify or memory modify commands to change to something before that instruction executes. The step command negotiates program branches and program counter exchanges, meaning that when the single step gets to an XPPC, it puts the breakpoint at the address where the program will land after the XPPC. And when it comes upon a conditional jump, it places the breakpoint at the correct destination depending on how the jump evaluates the condition. So there's 2 more options with the step command. Entering the S command and 3-digit values, use the input value as a breakpoint address. Since I wanted to include this as a step function rather than writing a breakpoint manager, that's why I used a 3-digit value, because that means the breakpoint is limited to being in the current 4K memory page. So S with 4 digits starts at that address, and 3 digits uses the input as a breakpoint address on this page. And S with 1 or 2 digits uses those as a step counter. And the mother of all the step instructions is just an S with no value. And then it will request the step starting address, the ending address, and the maximum step count. Using this, stepping starts at the given address and then continues until either the breakpoint or the maximum step count is reached. And even if you just want to use an ending breakpoint, the maximum step count is handy in case the program took a turn you weren't expecting, and it would have never gotten to your specified breakpoint. So the maximum step count lets it fall out in case there was a bug somewhere in your code. Probably my biggest mistake when I made this board was not thinking big enough. I only gave it the ability to have 4 of these new opcodes at any one time. Of course, they can be changed out on the fly by just modifying the code up in the landing zone that's in this 6264 RAM. But if I make another version of this board, I'm going to expand that so it will include at least 16 new opcodes. They're just so versatile. I've found so many uses for this that I would like to have those extra opcodes. And I also think about further expanding this to include 2-byte opcodes, which would be useful for multi-option tasks like enabling or disabling the hardware interrupt, and for pushing and popping different registers from the stack. Now, when I go to the 16 opcodes, I'll need to remap how the memory works. As it is now, there's 16 bytes of code that are jammed onto the instruction bus, which is enough to do some configuration and then a local jump to adjacent RAM. But if I expand it to 16 opcodes, then the adjacent cleanup code space needs to be local to each of the 16 opcode landing zones. And the upshot is that the cleanup code needs to be interleaved with the landing zone, so it's always a local call, memory call, to each landing zone, and then we can use the PC relative displacements. So now that I have this board, I may go back and make a couple of tweaks to the Nibbler board so they can better utilize each other. Maybe even make the Nibbler so we can use address jamming rather than just instruction jamming. And I talked about the difference between address and instruction jamming a few videos ago. So it has been several months since I came across this Nibbler. And again, thanks to everyone that contributed to this project, including Dave, who originally rescued this board, and then Art, who saved it for at least a decade and passed it on to me. There was Gordon, who had the documentation, and Andy, who was able to get the expansion RAM notes from Digi-Key, and everyone else that made suggestions and followed along with this project. So I think this is a happy ending to the Nibbler project. the build files for all these boards, including my version of the Nibbler, the RAM board, there's a EEPROM board, and then, of course, the vector instruction board, and a couple of different versions of the backplane. And these are all available on the project pages, as well as the code, the original basic code that goes in these two ROMs, and the source code for the KitBug++ resident monitor. So I sort of fell into it, but I have found this Nibbler project to be one of my most interesting projects in the last few years. It's at least the most interesting project I have, going back to this bubble memory board that I created for this SBC85 system. So as far as platforms go, this SCaMP has been so far out of my ordinary wheelhouse. You know, it's not just another run-of-the-mill 8-bit project. It's truly unique, and I recommend it to anybody looking for something that's out of the ordinary. It's become a very nice platform. You know, it starts up into a nice, capable basic interpreter, and then if you want to, from there, you can jump into KitBug++, which provides support for user code development in assembly. It's also easy to expand with the RAM and ROM boards, and as well as that little vectored instruction board. It's just icing on the cake. So as always, I'll continue to upload new hardware and software to the SCaMP project pages. But if you do have continued interest in the SCaMP, I encourage you to join and engage with the UK Vintage Radio Repair and Restoration Forum. And if you're into Facebook, there's also an active Science of Cambridge and SCaMP users group. Well, that's it for this video. Thanks for watching, and I will talk with you later. Bye-bye.